Okay, everybody, I'm going to get started and at least do our intros as people join in because I know that Bill probably has a lot to get through. But hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, The Future of Excel, AI, Python, and New Features Uncovered. My name is Stephanie, and I'll be your moderator for this event, and I'd like to thank everyone for joining and taking the time to be here. So I have with me today Bill Jelen. Bill is the host of MrExcel.com, the author of 69 books about Microsoft Excel, including Excel Gurus Gone Wild, Pivot Table, Data Crunching, and Excel Inside Out. He has made over 80 guest appearances on TV's Call for Help with Leah Lepore and was voted Guest of the Year on the Computer America radio show. He has produced over 2,600 episodes of his Excel video podcast, Learn Excel from Mr. Excel, and he was also a three-time commentator for the Excel World Championships broadcast on ESPN. So since we'll be talking a bit about artificial intelligence today, it is worth noting that Bill has been honing a Mr. Excel GPT bot with all the knowledge from hundreds of hours of his YouTube videos and books. But before founding MrExcel.com in 1998, Bill spent 12 years as a financial analyst for the accounting, finance, marketing, and operations departments of a publicly held company. As always, you will receive the recording and additional resources from today's webinar within the next 24 hours. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. And then also at the end of the webinar, there's just a really quick survey about your experience and about future webinars. This really helps us pick future topics as well. And as a reminder, you must complete 3 out of the 4 live poll questions during this webinar in order to receive your CPE credit. And then Bill will be emailing them to you directly within 1 week. So now a little bit about us. So More for Apps is a certified Microsoft and Oracle partner. We have over 400 customers and 34,000 end users. We offer nearly 30 out-of-the-box wizards and modules built specifically for organizations running on Oracle EBS and Oracle Fusion Cloud applications with validated integration and tight security. But let's get to what we're really here for. So Bill, take it away.
All right, Stephanie, this is going to be fun today, right? We're going to do all kinds of cool new things, including some things that just happened last week. So let me share this screen. All right, there we go. Okay, the plan for today. And by the way, if you don't have this book, Mr. Excel 2024, Stephanie will send out the link to that. You can download the PDF to the whole book tomorrow. Although a few of these things are so new, they're not in the book. We're going to have to do a 2025 version at some point. The plan today, we're going to start off talking about Python in Excel, which is pretty exciting. Pivot table improvements, something that just showed up last week. Replacing a pivot table with a formula, the pivot by, and I actually like group by a lot better. We'll take a look at some examples there. Text to columns in a formula, artificial intelligence to create a pivot table, and then we're going to take a look at seeing how well both Copilot and DeepSeek can explain a formula that someone else sent you. We'll take a look at using the Excel Labs add-in to call OpenAI, ChatGPT, essentially, thousands of times. A really obscure thing that showed up from Microsoft that you should understand called function compatibility, which is good. There's a lot of times, this is funny. Microsoft is really big on if you open an Excel workbook and then you open an Excel workbook a month from now, the answer better stay the same. And so there's a lot of things that are wrong in Excel that they won't fix because of that fear, like that nothing should ever change in Excel. But now they're going to have a way to change and correct those weird things. All right, so let's get started here. Talking about Python in Excel. Now, Python, what the heck is Python? It was just over 10 years ago. I was at a friend of mine's house, and he had his goddaughter was there. She's a college student. And she knows that I'm Mr. Excel. She's like, oh, I love Excel. They taught us Excel in school, blah, blah, blah. And she says, it's just not as powerful as Python. Oh my gosh. I'm like, what are you talking about? Excel can do everything. She's like, oh no, Python is better, right? And that scared me 10 years ago. Oh, so now these college kids are coming up, they're being taught Python along the way. And so I went out and I bought a book on Python, and I'm reading through, and there's some cool things in there that I can't do in Excel, or it would be really hard to do in Excel. But now I go back to chapter 1 and I'm trying to install Python, and that wasn't fun. Like I couldn't get it done. It was DOS prompts, elevated command prompts, all of these libraries from all over the place. Couldn't figure it out. Well, the advantage here is that Microsoft has now taken all of that hard setup stuff and done it for us. Back here on the formulas tab, they've added the Python group. Uh, and Python is a funny thing right now. It's supposed to be out to Microsoft 365 if you're on the monthly channel. If you're on the semi-annual channel, you still don't have this. There's actually a better chance that at home, your home subscription to Microsoft might have Python before it gets to the semi-annual channel. And you can always talk to your IT department. Someone in IT has the admin rights to get you this stuff if it looks interesting. So we have the insert Python item here, and what they're doing is they have implemented a version of Python called Anacondas, which I guess is a pretty famous version of Python, which automatically gives us a whole bunch of libraries. Like Python, as far as I can understand, it's kind of like open source. Like anyone can go write a library for Python, and then part of your Python code says, "Oh, go load this library," and then you get all kinds of extra stuff. All right, so I'm going to click on this initialization here, and over on the right-hand side. So like if you download Python from the internet, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to import numpy as NP, import pandas, import matplotlib, import all this stuff. Well, this is all already imported for you. So if the stuff you need is from these libraries over here, it's just automatic. Like it's just going to work. You don't have to load any of that stuff. You don't have to download anything. And then Anacondas, it's important to remember Anacondas because like you can go say which libraries are supported by Anacondas. And if the code is using those libraries, then you're just covered, right? So it's really good. Like sometimes I'll go out and I'll Google how to do something, or actually I'll go to ChatGPT and ask how to do something. And the first thing I'll say is import this library, and I'll go look and see if that's in Anacondas. And if it's not, then you kind of go back and say, okay, I'm using Anacondas. I don't have access to that library. Can you write the Python some other way? Maybe not as efficient, right? But is there some other Python that we can do? So let's take a look at Python and just show you what's going on here. All right, so the whole idea is that Python is written in the formula bar with a brand new function called equal py, py standing for Python. But there's some great shortcut keys here. Just Control Alt Shift P. And you see, I don't know if you can see it, the formula bar changes to this little green thing, right? And the green thing says, hey, we're not just writing an Excel formula now, we're writing a Python formula. And the first thing to be aware of, the change is like Python usually has a few lines of code. So we've always been able to expand the formula bar, but it's Control Enter when you're done with the Python. So Enter goes to a new line. I don't know why they did that. Like maybe they figured that no one would be able to figure out Alt Enter, which is how we go to a new line in Excel. Whatever. And in Excel, of course, we have ranges. Like that's our nice range of data over there in A1. In Python, that same thing is called a data frame. And almost every example that you see on the internet starts with the data frame being called DF, standing for data frame. All right, so we just say DF equals, and then I just take the mouse. Watch how cool this is. Just take the mouse and highlight the data here, right there. And what they do is it's almost like when you press Control T to create a table. So they have a function called, Microsoft created this function called XL, which means this data is coming from the Excel grid, A1 to F51. And by the way, headers equals true. All right, I'll press Enter to go to a new line. And like this is the first Python. This is Python 101 right here, df.describe, right? And we'll press, oh wait, hang on. I was about to press Control Enter. We got to talk about one more annoying thing. In Python, everyone wants to work in data frames. Like, they're just get me the data frame. I don't want the data frame. I want to see the data. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm old school. Show me the data. So here to the left of the formula bar, we have a new dropdown that says return this as a Python object, which just means we're just going to get a hyperlinked data frame, or return it as an Excel value, right? So changing to Excel value is something you have to do, at least if you're me, every single time. And I always forget to do that. But I remember that time, so hey, personal growth, right? So it took this data set for all the numeric fields. It's giving me the count, the mean, the standard. This almost feels like the old analysis toolback. Here's the 25th percentile, the median, the 75th percentile, and the max, right? Yeah, so that's just 2 lines of Python code. It's like the hello world of Python. Now, once we have that data frame defined, right, the way that this works, they say it's, I don't know, they say it's a row-wise fashion. So everything after I3, everything to the right of I3 and everything below I3 knows that there's a variable called df, and I can just refer to that later. So here, if I would create some Python, Control Alt Shift P and say df dot and then square bracket and in parentheses or apostrophes households, like I can pull that data out of the data frame. So this cell that's sitting there below I3 knows that the data frame exists. I press Control Enter. Oh, I did it wrong. I have to use that sum. I'm glad I put the notes out there. So a little function called sum. So go find the households and sum all those up. And yep, still something wrong. Okay, so that was a really bad example, right? df.households. Let me try the shortcut for this. We'll try one more before I man it. So df.households.sum. Enter. Oh, there we go. We got an answer. Yeah, there we are. So summing up the households and the area. I actually have an example over here that I'm just going to copy so I don't screw it up. And we'll do Control Shift P to start Python and calculate a new column. So income per person is the households times the median household income divided by population, right? So I'm adding a new column. I press Control, about to press Control Enter. I have to say I want this as an Excel value, Control Enter, and it gives me my original data set, but doing some sort of a calculation on it. Right. So, I don't know, is that easier than or harder than just coming back here? Like all of this stuff, I guess we could have done this in Excel. But the awesome thing about Python is it does all kinds of things that Excel doesn't do. Right. So I have an example here where we create a word cloud. So let me open this one. So here I have started out with this data. This was data. Stephanie, thanks for letting me borrow these blog posts that you had. Right. So just a bunch of blog posts that I copied in here. And then on the analysis tab, the first thing they do up here is they create a data frame that just points back to that data on the other sheet. So that's good. It can go to another sheet. And then, Python loves to do this preview thing where it shows you the first 5 rows and they number them 0 through 4. It's one of those things, 0 based. And then they're showing you the last 5 rows. But down here is the code. So this is just a little bit of code that actually I had Copilot generate for me that takes that data and creates the word cloud that we see down here, right? So, and now once this is written, I can paste any new data back on the query sheet and the word cloud will update. So it's just a great way to summarize data. It's something that it's certainly a chart we've never seen in Excel before. So really different kinds of things we can do there. And then this next one, this is one actually on a previous webinar, this question came in. And when the question came in, I just cringed because it's a question that has been driving people crazy forever, especially if you're in accounts receivable. All right. And so the guy said, look, I have 20 open invoices out there, and we just got a big check from this customer. Customer C sent us a check for 67,045.7, and they didn't tell us which invoices they're paying. All right. Now, look, I've done this before. You can try and use Solver for this, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. You can try and use this binary method and then data. I mean, it's a very painful thing. Data, what if analysis, a data table to try and find the matches, right? And it can take forever, right? But when this question came in, rather than explain those methods, which take at least 5 minutes each, I went out to the internet and said, hey, is there Python that will solve this problem? I think it's called the knapsack problem. And so this tiny little bit of code here, there's a function written called combinations. And so you give it a list of amounts and the number, and it goes through and calculates all the calculations for you, right? So let me just press Control Enter here, right? So with that check, if we got a check for 67,045.7, the checks that add up to that exact amount are these checks right here. And I have a few other numbers here. So let me put in a different number right here, the special values. right? So if we get a check for 65,332.58, then it's these checks. Like this is insanely hard to do in Excel. I'm so glad that I don't work in accounts receivable because, you'd be calling the customer. And sometimes, you've had those customers, right? Where you want to go back and say, we're not taking your check unless you tell us what you're paying, but we're so happy to get the check. You're just going to go through and try and figure it out, right? So this is an example where Python made this really hard thing in Excel just dramatically easier. Somewhere. The 69th book that Stephanie mentioned is a book that Microsoft Press published, which unfortunately they don't let me give that away. Funny, they're trying to sell books or something. There's examples in the back of that book of different things you can do in Python. And one of the funniest ones is I downloaded some NBA data. Like the NBA, I didn't realize this, since 2013 has the X and Y location of every shot taken in the NBA. Like every game, every player has shot, and whether it was made or missed. And Python analyzed that data and created a shot chart. It showed like every location that LeBron James took a shot or didn't. It was just amazing. Like someone took the time to create a library just for NBA data. Like there's all kinds of Python libraries out there. And unfortunately with Excel, we're at the mercy of Microsoft. I have all kinds of requests into Microsoft. Hey, can you do this? Well, they only have so many engineers and it could take years sometimes. Unless, of course, Google Sheets does it, then they'll go do it right away because they're afraid of Google Sheets. Oh, sorry, did I say that out loud? Sometimes I think I should go lobby Google Sheets. Like if Google Sheets would add this, then Microsoft would be pressured to add it. All right, so Python, I'm very excited about it. When I get a really hard problem, the first thing I go do is go out and Google to see if there's a Python solution. And then we'll come back. All right, Stephanie, we should do CPE question number 1.
Sounds good.
Yep.
Here we go.
Oh, that's funny. I can't see it. Let me get it this.
Excel is using which version of Python?
Is it A, Cobra, B, Anaconda, C, sea snakes, or D, coral, which is a snake? I had to go look it up. So
we'll give everybody a chance to answer.
Right.
Everyone's doing pretty good. 5 more seconds. All right. Last call, get your answer in. Okay, we got some late stragglers. Okay. Show results. There you go.
All right. Yeah. Anaconda is the version, which is another company out there. And actually, I was a little upset when Microsoft said that they might make us pay for Python. Like, wait a second, Python's free, it's open source, but they're paying for the security that Anaconda is providing. So some of that money is going to the company that makes Anaconda. I don't know if that's right or not. Here's actually what went down. Here's what went down. I'm looking around in case anyone from Microsoft is here. They are being a little bit interesting about this. They want everyone to try Python, so they're giving it to everybody for free. But then after you use it so much, they won't define what so much is. Once you use it so much, then a little message that comes up and says, hey, for the rest of the month, we're going to slow down your Python. You might want to start paying for it. And the interesting thing to me is even when I get hey, we're going to slow it down, it's still faster than I could have done in Excel. So I'm still of the opinion that I'm not paying extra for Python. I'm just going to go with the slow version. Now, there might come a day where I start relying on it so much that it's worth it to me. But right now, I appreciate that they let everyone try it for free. And it's only if you really start using it a lot that they'll try and hit you up for more money, or not you, the company you're working for. All right, next up, this is I was so excited. I jumped out of my chair last week when this happened. Pivot table improvements. I almost always talk about pivot tables, and I have data here with quantity, revenue, cost of goods sold, and profit. And you'll see that revenue, cost of goods sold, and profit is in currency, and quantity has 1,000 separator. I'm going to create a pivot table from this data. Insert pivot table, and let it go to a new worksheet. And we'll just do something by sector and quantity, revenue, cost of goods sold, and profit. Now, look at this. When this happened to me and those values were already formatted as currency, I could not believe what I was seeing. Like somehow I thought that I had somehow pre-formatted the data. Like how did I get this sheet in there with those currency already formatted? And I wrote to the people at Microsoft, and they're like, she's like, yeah, that happened 2 months ago. Like I know that the currency doesn't follow. The numeric formatting does not follow. So I just always start from general data because that's what I'm going to end up with here. I'm going to end up with general data and I have to go through and create it. I always create a pivot table. It takes 6 clicks to create the pivot table and then 7 clicks just to add the stupid comma in, like literally longer to add the comma than to create the pivot table. But now it's just going to happen. Let's see here, summer revenue. I'm going to come in, just going to try one more thing that might be coming. Still not there yet. Okay. So next time we talk, I might have some news, exciting news about that list of functions. But for right now, the great thing or the exciting thing is that the numeric formatting from the original data comes through to the pivot table. So let's just be happy about that for right now. The other thing that I think I mentioned last time that is also new is if you want to drill down in a pivot table, a lot of people have known this, that you can double click any cell, but they've now added an icon for that called show details. So I'm sitting here in transportation, sum of revenue. And if I click show details, they give me a new worksheet with a heading that says details for sum of revenue, where the sector is transportation, right? So I kind of appreciate that extra heading there because if you double click on a bunch of cells, you don't really know which one is which. So now you'll be able to see at a glance which is up there. All right, so that's pivot table improvements. The numeric formatting is the really exciting one. Actually, it's strange. It's been broken for 25 years. Not broken. It's just something they said they could never do for 25 years, and now all of a sudden, they're able to do it. It's like what? Like, I don't know. I was convinced they wouldn't be able to because all that data leaves the grid and goes into something called the pivot cache, which doesn't have formatting in it. So it was like, how's that automatically happening? Okay, next up, I want to create a pivot table with a formula. Pivot table with a formula. I had heard that this formula was coming out, pivot by and group by. And I'm going to start here with group by because in actual reality, I'm finding that I'm using group by so much more frequently than pivot by. All right, so I'm going to start here. I have a tiny little data set. Of course, this works with a much larger data set. And I'm going to ask Excel to group by. And the first thing it wants to know are the row fields. Those are the fields you drag to the left-hand side of the pivot table. So I'm going to start here with category as the row fields, including the heading, which is unlike other things like sort and filter. You normally wouldn't include the heading. And then what do I want to add up? I'm going to go with sales this time. So I choose the sales column. Notice I'm not pressing F4 here because it's not anything we're going to copy. Like normally I would lock this down and, if I was doing X lookups or something like that. And then what function to use. All right, so here's the functions. This is really good. We have sum, percent of, average, median, which is not in pivot tables. Like that's really interesting. They added something here that's not in pivot tables. Count, numeric count, max, min, product. A rated text, I haven't figured out a use for that yet. Concat, that means that we can take a bunch of text and concatenate it, although that would be ugly without delimiters between it. Might be standard deviation, variance, and mode. And then down here, lambda. Lambda functions are where you write your own formula. You can do anything with a lambda. So like now imagine creating a pivot table, which does some weird calculation that you have to do in your company all the time. All right, so there is my result, right? This is just a great, quick and dirty, how much sales did we have from each of those categories? Now the optional arguments here that beyond the function are, do we want to show field headers? And yes, definitely I do. How many totals, sort order, and then do we want to filter first? So let's go through those. So let's just start with the header. So we defaulted to no. Option number 1 is yes, create the headers, but don't show them. Why? Why would you do that? Don't show the headers, but generate them, which sounds like exactly like number 1. So I always go to number 3. That's the only one that makes sense to me. Yes, put the headers in, and we want to show them. This stupid little Copilot icon. Have you gotten this? This little Copilot icon that shows up here and keeps hiding the cell to the right of the active cell. Hide until I reopen this document. I've been lobbying Microsoft that needs to go. Like, we want people to try Copilot. It's like, yeah, you're just annoying people, right? Let us turn it back on if we want it. We'll see what happens here. There might be some news coming out next month. The MVP Summit is coming up, and they always give us good things at the MVP Summit, so that way the MVPs don't yell at them. So I'm hoping that there'll be news next month that that might go away. Nothing for sure, of course. Okay, so that's sales and cost by one row field, both or just sales by category. I'm going to edit this, and I want to do both sales and cost. So we're having two fields in our pivot table, in essence. So C to D, and now we get sales and cost. It's not smart enough to make the column wider. Oh, and some bad formatting left over there from before. It's funny, they're formatting the regular pivot tables, but they're not formatting this yet. So number format, currency, 0 decimal places. All right, so there's sales and cost by one row field. Now we're going to do it by two row fields. And this is actually interesting because it changes the total depth that we can do. So I want to do both A and B, so category and product. You can see that we now have fruit, and then so the category and product. At the end of fruit, it would be nice to have a subtotal there. And at the end of herbs, a subtotal, and the end of vegetables, a subtotal. So that's the total depth. Now is going to offer us a chance to do that. So instead of just grand totals, I can ask for grand totals and subtotals, and something that we have never been able to do at the pivot table. Let's actually do it. Grand totals and subtotals at the top. My friend Roger in Wales always is saying, why can't they put pivot table totals at the top? Well, we now have the grand total at the top, and then the fruit category, and then underneath it, all of the items in fruit. Its formats are really bad here. Right, so there's the ability to add subtotals at the top. So that was fun to do, but I'm going back to the normal way with subtotals at the bottom like they should be. Okay, within this list, fruit is alphabetical, fruit, herbs, and vegetables. Within fruit, it's apple, banana, cherry. That's alphabetical as well. What we really want to see here is sorted by sale. So there's a sort order. So I'm going to come out here to the sort order. And the way we specify this, if we want to sort by the first column, that'd be the number one. The product is column number 2. So sales is column number 3. And you see that we're now ascending sequence. So the smallest item, and actually vegetables are first, then herbs, then fruit. Of course, no one wants to see this. They want to see the largest item at the top. So take that 3 and make it be a -3. That says sort in descending sequence by the third column. And now fruit comes back to the top within fruit, cherry, dill, fig, because they're the largest items. All right, so all of those are really great. There's one last one here, and this one's not in the book. My friend Liam Bastick, who is a author down in Australia, I figured out this amazing thing. So I'm going to go back to just a single set of just one row field and just one value field like this. Screwed something up. A4, C4, C20. Yeah, the sort order doesn't make sense anymore. Okay, great. We want to show sales both as sum and a percent of. Sum and percent of. And so they introduced a function last year called HStack, stands for a horizontal stack. And so in the HStack, I'm going to ask for both sum and percent of that. And that should give us both. Yeah, look at that. So I could ask for sum, average, and percent of, just stack everything up inside the HStack. Really, really cool the way that works. All right, so all of these things that we can do with group by. Now, the only difference between group by and pivot by is the ability to have column fields. So in the function signature up here, anything in red is brand new column fields, and then column total depth, do we want to show subtotals or not, and then sort order, how do we want to sort those columns left to right. So the pivot by function, here's just a simple one with one row field and one column field to create something that feels a lot like a pivot table. Now, what's the advantage of this? Well, regular pivot tables, if the underlying data changes, someone has to go click refresh, right? So now you're counting on your manager or your manager's manager to come out here to data and refresh all. And there's just no way that we're going to do that. These will automatically refresh because they're part of the calculation chain. If anything changes, everything will change. All right, Stephanie, if we could do the second CPE question.
Yeah, sure. Of course. And we do have a question too in the chat. If you want to see it, or I can read it to you, but we can do that.
Now let me go check.
But here's a credit question first.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so CPE, which formula creates a report that looks like a pivot table? Is it sum it, crosstab, pivot by, or wrap rows. Let me go take a look at the chat. Okay, so Python. Python, to get that, you're going to go back to your IT department. Someone who administrators the Microsoft 365 admin. So at admin.microsoft365.com, they can go in and assign licenses to you. One big question that we have is if you go to File and then Account, if you see over here About Excel that you're on what's called the semi-annual channel, that could be the problem, right? And you can go to your IT department and say, hey, can you just bump me up to the monthly channel? And then if it doesn't show up, then they can assign you a license for Python. So that's a trip to the IT department or the help desk, and someone there, just say, hey, I hear there's Python. I can use it in my job, and we'll see what happens. So, all right, cool. Are we on that CPE question? Are we good with that?
Yeah, I think all good. Yeah,
Okay,
okay, I'm gonna
good.
stop sharing.
Yeah. So pivot by is the way to go. Okay, good. So we got the next two. All right. The other thing, this is great. So they gave us pivot tables as a formula. The other one that I do all the time is data text to columns out here. The text to columns is something that I'm using all the time. And it's funny, in Power Query, they actually do text to columns a little bit better. And they gave us text join long ago, right? The text join function, so equal text join, which is better than concat. So text join says between each of these, I want to put, I don't know, a horizontal bracket. If there was something empty, ignore it. And then type a comma there. Then specify a range, and it will join all that text together. Right, so they gave us text join all the way back in February, I think, of 2017. And they said, a text split will be coming. And it never came. It took like 4 or 5 years for text split to finally show up. But we now have text split. And the day that it came, I'm gonna be a tiny bit catty about it. There's a Copilot icon again. I until I reopen this document. Every time I reopen this document, they make me hide it again. They gave me text split, which I knew that I needed. But then, I'm like, well, I hope this didn't take 5 years because you were waiting to give us text before and text after. Because I said that's silly. Like we already have ways to do text before and text after. So they gave us, text split. And I'm going to show you these. They're pretty cool little functions out here. Here is text split. So somehow I have some CSV data that made it into the column without getting separated. They pasted it from somewhere. I don't know, right? So equal text split. And the first thing they say is, what's the text, right? So that's this text over here. And then what's the column delimiter? At each something, we're going to split to a new column. And so in quotes, I say it's a comma. That looks kind of weird, right? With a comma, quote, comma, quote. And we'll just stop right there. And it takes that text that's separated by commas and puts it out into multiple columns for us. So that spill error there for just a second while I tried to figure out what was going on. All right, so that's good, right? That's exactly what text to columns has been able to do for us for 30 years anyway. But the one thing that Power Query does in their split column is they have the ability to split things not into new columns, but into new rows. And sure enough, here there's something called a row delimiter. So here's a long paragraph of text. And down here, I've split this with no column delimiter, but every time there's a period, go to a new line. And so I'm getting the sentences out down here. So like that, there's some things we can do with text split that aren't in the regular text to columns. Okay, text before and text after. Again, I probably mocked this when it came out. Text before says, give me everything before the dash. Text after says, give me everything after the dash, right? And I'm going to just geek out here. Like this was always possible before. I want the left of this. And how many characters do I want? I want the find of the dash in that cell. That's going to tell me that the dash is in the 4th position. So I need to subtract 1 from it like that. It's like we already could have done this. And I'm sure in my first YouTube video, I'm like, well, wait, this is silly. We already have functions to do text before. We don't need this. And yeah, text after is a little bit harder because it's the mid function with find plus 1, whatever. Okay. But I have to tell you now that like a year's gone by, it really is so much easier just to use text before and text after. Like I don't have to go through and think about those other functions. Um, the interesting thing here is we can specify which instance number, that n, says we want everything after the second dash or the third dash or the fourth dash. And a really interesting way, do we have this? Yeah, yeah. So the instance number, um, like if I ask for the third comma, it's going to count 1, 2, 3 like that, right? But sometimes we have this problem where we get account, cost center, the name of the cost center, a dash, and then something. And we need that something, right? And the cost center description might have dashes in it already, so we don't know how many dashes we're going to get. My friend Charles Williams, who's an MVP in England, Charles actually wrote text split long before Microsoft wrote text split. And in his version, he said for the instance number, if you give me a negative number, I'm going to start counting from the right side, right? So if you want the last comma and you don't know how many commas there's going to be, just ask for a -1, and Charles would count from the right side. And when Microsoft implemented this, they knew how Charles was doing it, and so like here I want to get the last word from that sentence. So I asked for text after everything after the space, and which space? It's the -1 space. So give me the last space you find, get me everything after that. So a lot of flexibility there with that ability. Wait, here's a bonus trick. I shouldn't be. I should be careful. Here I have something that says May report, and I'm going to make a copy of this for the June report and the July report. So there's a great little function here called equal cell of file name that at the far right-hand side, after the workbook name, they have a right square bracket. And then after that is the sheet name, right? So that function is returning the path to the workbook. And so using text after right here, the text after is getting me the name of the worksheet in a cell. So that way when I make a copy of the May report, and it's now the June report, like that heading, that title at the top of my report will automatically change to reflect that. This, by the way, is in the book. Both of these versions made it into the book. So that's a cool little trick. I can never remember the function. I always come back to this workbook every time I have to do that. Okay, so the new text functions, those are really good. Artificial intelligence to create a pivot table. This is not Copilot. They're trying to charge a lot of money for Copilot, and I'm not a fan of that. Let me close a few things here. This feature is just in straight Excel. Like if you have Microsoft 365, you already have this feature. And up here is Copilot, which it's like $30 a month. It's pretty expensive. Like Excel itself is $20, and they throw in Word and everything else for free. They're charging more for Copilot than they are for Excel. But to the left of that is analyze data, and analyze data has the ability to create pivot tables. Like the best thing that Copilot can do for us is analyze and create pivot tables or pivot charts, and that is already here for free in analyze data. And I'm just going to call out, when we get to Copilot, they're going to make me turn autosave on, and I despise turning autosave on. So having analyze data available with data sets where it's not on is great, unless of course it doesn't fire up here. So let's just maybe we'll have to come back to this one. Let's try it again. Analyze data. Okay, yeah, so analyze data comes up with some canned trends that it spots. It offers like six canned trends, but at the top is the ability to type questions. And so I could ask for the top 3 customers by sector based on revenue, and it would create that pivot table just from that sentence. I don't know what's up with it today. We'll come back and try that one in a little bit. The good news is that one that is free that we're not paying for, just does it, just does it really, really well. Okay, next up, Copilot to explain formulas. This is kind of new. This is something that Copilot didn't do at first. Let's try this one. Yep. All right, so this is I love this. I call myself Mr. Excel, and I know a lot about Excel. But every once in a while I get questions sent in to me and I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know this, right? And I'll come up with a method that's not a good method, but solves the problem. And I'll put it out on YouTube. And I put it on YouTube and I say in the YouTube video, I say, I know that someone watching this has something better, right? And so if you have something better, go like down in the YouTube comments, let me know, right? And we'll put it on a future video. Um, and it's always the same two or three people. Like there are people that are really, really smart. Like they should be the MrExcel. So one of those is a fellow named XL Lambda. And this is a crazy formula. Like I posted some horrible formula out on YouTube and he came in with this formula, right? And this is all great except for every time he sends me a formula, I can't figure out what the heck is going on. Okay, so I have this formula and the formula is working. I can see that it's doing what I needed it to do in the video, but I don't understand how it's working. So I come up here to Copilot and I will ask them to explain this formula. And Copilot is going to go through. Oh, wait. It's funny. Why can't it see that? So explain the formula in cell D7. Oh, this is crazy. So it's saying it doesn't have access to the specific formula. What's wrong here? Autosave is on for sure. Uh, and actually here, this is so funny. I'm going to click on the Copilot icon and say, explain this formula. So it actually, it's funny. It actually pasted the formula in. All right. So we're finally going to get an answer here. Make this wider. All right. So here's an explanation from Copilot. This formula, and they go through bit by bit from the inside, like what the map function is doing. It iterates over each pair of values. And I look at this and I say, well, this is a very clinical description of what's happening. I'm not sure that it really helps me to understand the formula much better. And I say, can you try to guess what the formula is trying to do? Right? And it just repeats this. Like it's not a very good result. Okay, so when I was fighting with this, a brand new thing came out. Like everyone's like, oh, this new thing called DeepSeek showed up. And so DeepSeek actually lets you upload the Excel file. And then I asked, explain the formula in D7. I gave it the formula and what's the formula trying to do. And I'm actually impressed here that they gave me the same breakdown. They show me all of the things, but then are able to explain exactly what the formula is doing with an example and how it works, right? And this is like so much better. And I look at this and like Microsoft spent a tremendous amount of money on Copilot, and they're really trying to just show things off. And then this new upstart comes along that does something better than Copilot is doing, which this currently is free. I'm sure it can't be free forever. Like eventually they're going to start to charge for it, but like right now, I'm like, wow. Um, it was really convenient to do it from Excel. Uh, although, you know, coming out here, I get a better answer from DeepSeek. So interesting just to watch this whole world change here as we're trying to uh, trying to see what ends up. All right, let's go back and try the artificial intelligence real quick here before we do that CPE. So we'll just open a pivot table data set, pivots, and we'll try analyze data again. So Copilot and analyze data are the two tools we have. Oh, there we go. That's so weird. Like just 5 minutes later, it works. Right. So they offer some pivot tables, all right, which is great. And even if you click on show all 36 results, they'll offer more pivot tables and pivot charts. But I'm trying to get something specific here. I want to see the top 3 customers based on revenue for each sector, right? And I'm very careful to use the headings that are in the data. So revenue and sector and customer are fields that it knows. The Copilot version of this would be able to do it without that match. Like I could ask for top sales or something like that. Um, so right here, top three in customer by revenue for each sector. I click insert pivot table. This is a pretty hard pivot table to create. Like you have to be able to go into the top 10 auto filter and change it to show the top three. Transportation, I only have one customer. That is valid, but there's the top three customers for each of those, right? So that's pretty awesome. And this one is just included with Microsoft 365. You don't need the Copilot on top. All right, Stephanie, if we could do the third CPE question.
Sounds good. Give me 1 second.
All right.
Okay, there you go.
All right. The two AI commands in Excel are, is it A, Copilot and ideas, B, Copilot and insights, C, Copilot and analyze data, or D, Copilot and pilot? By the way, that Copilot name means that you're always supposed to check the results. So you're the pilot. It's the Copilot. Like you're in charge of making sure that it does things correctly.
I never thought of it about that.
Yeah,
That makes
right.
sense.
Yeah, right.
All right. Last call. Okay. Sure. There
All
we
right.
go.
There we are. Copilot and analyze data. That's great. That's it. Good. All right. I might have shown this example before. I had a really silly data analysis project one time that no one in their right mind would have taken the time to do this, right? And I would have gone back to my manager and pushed back and said, no, this will just take hours and hours and hours, and it's silly, and I'm not going to do it, right? Okay, so here's a Spotify playlist with 2,500 songs, and we're trying to categorize this by decade, which is just silly. Okay, but based on the song artist and the song, I use some concatenation here to say, in what year did that artist in A2 originally record the song in B2 with a question mark at the end? And I'm trying to get those years. And so I could take this to Google, right? I could ask this question of Google each time. But I'm using a free tool here from Microsoft in Cambridge, England. It's called Microsoft Labs. And to get this add-in, if you don't already have the Excel Labs icon up here, it's free. You have to go to the add-ins icon, which is in two places. They moved it recently. It had been on the insert tab right here where checkbox is now. There was an add-in store there. When they had a checkbox, they moved this icon to the home tab. So we go to add-ins and we just search for Excel Labs. Excel Labs right there. You'll just click add. They'll ask you if you want it for everyone who uses this as a computer or just your account. So whichever answer there is right. And then you get a brand new function. You get a function called labs.generative AI, and we give it a prompt. So there's my question. And I send that question out to OpenAI. And let's do a few here. So this is 1937, 1786, 1932, 1934, 1934, 1937. I could then change the question to say, I just want the year. Don't give me the whole sentence and things like that. All right. So the good news is double click to copy this down. And yeah, I went to get some coffee at the Target down the street because it took probably 40 minutes. Right. But it came up with the answer and then we were able to do the pivot table. Again, if someone had to manually do this, there's no way we would ever do it. But, using this, we were able to get the results. It was a silly little request, right? But cool. Now, by the way, the first 30 days of that are free. After that, they need your credit card. The great news is those 2,500 is ridiculously inexpensive. I think it was like 40 cents to do 2,500 calls. So not a big thing at all. All right, this next one. This is important. It's so trivial, but it's really important because it's going to allow Microsoft to fix things in the future. I hate these emojis. Is that what they're called? They're just so annoying. And in fact, I just published a book by a young author, right? And he used emojis everywhere. And those emojis are killing me because the books just showed up this week and I shipped them out. And on the back cover, he has a little smiley face, a little yellow smiley face. And it didn't print right. Like they're too new, and the printing equipment it screwed it up. All right, and here I have three little emojis in a cell, and I'm asking for the length of that, and you can see that there's three characters in that cell, and it's telling me there's six characters in that cell. And it turns out the reason this happens is because each of those characters count as two characters to Excel. But anyone who knows of the type three characters then are going to be like, well, this really should be three. But it's worked like this forever, right? And they don't want to break the old spreadsheets. So Microsoft would like always resist changing this. So back here on the formulas tab now, underneath calculation options, there's a new section if you have a function that's affected. And right now it's only these five, where there's something called compatibility version. And right now it's recommending version 1, which is the way that has worked for the last 30 years, even if that way is wrong. And then there's another version, the latest version, right? So if I switch to the latest version, then that function starts working, right? So, there's a few things, like I think NPV, some of you who use NPV are a little annoyed that it doesn't do the -1 at the end. And like, well, we can't fix that, even though doing the -1 should have been done when they originally did it. Like they're never going to fix it. But now this compatibility option or compatibility version will allow them to maybe fix that and other weird things. So that way, if that's always, if you know, if you know that this is going to be wrong, come out to compatibility version and you can go to the latest version and possibly start to get the right answer. So this gives me hope, for those weird little things in Excel that, they call them edge cases. And it's fine if you never go out to the edge, but there's a lot of people that live on the edge. And so I'm really kind of excited about this compatibility version. And it's on the calculation options on the formulas tab. All right, Stephanie, that gives us our last CPE question.
Yeah, right. There you go.
Okay, where do you find compatibility version? Is it A, under File Options, B, Formulas, Calculation Options, C, on the Review tab, check for errors, or D, on Formula, Evaluate Formula?
Give everybody some time to answer it. All right, 5 more seconds since we're running out of time. All right, last call. Okay.
All right, yep, it's under Formula, Calculation Options, hidden back there. It would actually, I don't know, it'd be nice if that gets triggered, like they should actually put up a little message that says, hey, you should go check this. Like this little message right here. So I'm moving on here to this new thing called clean data. This is a formula. This is a function. Oh, this is a function that is so new. It's been in Excel for the web for a while. For anyone that uses Excel on the web, and it just came to Windows recently. And it's one of those things that is going to be a really good function a few years from now. But right now, it's going to annoy the heck out of us, right? So right here, clean data with Copilot. It has 3 suggestions to clean your data. If this doesn't pop up, you can come to the data tab and go to clean data. And so show suggestions. Inconsistent text in column A. They see that Southwest Airlines, SWA, and South Capital West Airlines are all in column A, and they're offering that we could replace them all with Southwest Airlines in proper case. So I choose apply, and it even shows me over here, like if I hover, it shows me what the bad ones are. They're kind of in that pink, and I can even go through them one at a time. So 0 of 2, 1 of 2, 2 of 2. So I click apply, and it fixes all those. And then Ford and Ford Motors, it figured out was needed to be fixed, right? So hey, that was good. But then there's a few other things that it misses. Like for example, at the bottom of this, I know that Walmart is there 3 different ways: Walmart Bentonville, Wall Dash Mart, Wall Star Mart, and for some reason it doesn't see that, right? So I sent them, tell us what you think about clean data. I told them, I'm like, hey, you're missing some really obvious things here. GE is spelled with spaces, periods, like those to me all are the same. That's a really common one. I've actually seen that happen in my data before. And if I come out here and ask for, yeah, now are they listening? That's so funny that now they've discovered that one. Yeah, okay, great. But they still have never fixed Walmart. Um, and if I come out here and actually ask for them to clean the data, uh, sometimes they'll call attention to the fact that I have text. There's a number stored as text. Here's a number stored as text. And of course, the people that do that with the apostrophes, they always write a line, home, write a line, so that way no one will ever see it. They might even turn off the green triangle with ignore the error. Like if they really want to screw things up, that's the best way to do it. And now if we ask for data, clean data, yeah, new suggestions available, refresh. Oh, yeah. All right. So lots of times it'll complain about these. But then if I have dates, the classic date is where you ask for April 31st, and Excel treats that as text if someone keys that data in. So it's not seeing the dates at all. So right now, this really has so much potential. And I actually have right now a client project with a bunch of names that are entered incorrectly, like Janelle and Jay, and I want to throw it this and see if it'll help me. Um, but it's not going to be super reliable yet. It's coming. It'll get better. But right now it's just not there. All right. We have just a couple minutes left. Let me do show changes. This one is really good. If you're storing your data in OneDrive or SharePoint Online, it doesn't have to have autosave turned on or anything like that. All right. So if you have, I actually have a file here called show, test show changes. Particularly if you are having multiple people in the department work on the same file, and you want to see like who's making changes to it. So out here under data, we now have show changes. I'm sorry, review. Under review, show changes. And this will give us for the last 60 days, every change that's happened to this spreadsheet. So here you can see the cell B8 right there, that cell flow is currently 354, changed from 245. It changed 3 hours ago by some guy named Bill Jelen. This cell 122 changed from 123. If there was a formula that changed, so like when this number changed, the gross profit probably changed. The things downline from those keying changes don't show up. But if someone will come in here to the commission and just add a rogue $100 or something like that, that shows up that the formula changed, right? So this is really good. The last 60 days worth of changes. You can even come to one specific cell like this, here's a cell, or here's a cell. Let's go to this one, right click and say show changes, and it'll filter that panel to just that one particular cell, right? So you can see the history on that. Just in the right situation, a lot of people try and protect their Excel workbooks. Can the protection be broken? Maybe, depending on how clever they are. And on Excel Online, you don't really have that protection available. So being able to go back after the fact and figure out who changed things is a cool thing. All right, so there we go. That's kind of the new things. The really exciting things for me are the Python, because it's working and it's working really well. Copilot is going to be really good in a few years. But right now, things are moving so fast, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. And I'm funny. I want Excel to give me the same answer every single time. And Copilot sometimes will give me the right answer and sometimes will give me a different answer. And that just drives me crazy. The accountant in me says there's one answer here, and I want that answer every single time. And it still just worries the heck out of me. So, all right, Stephanie, we'll wrap it up there.
All right. Well, thank you, Bill, and thank you everybody for joining us. Like I said, you'll get the recording tomorrow. Possibly, I don't know, the workbook. It's up to you, Bill. But I do have a copy of MrExcel's 2024 Igniting Excel that we will also send to you. So just please keep a lookout for that. If you have any questions, always feel free to reach out. But yeah, thank you, and thank you,
Yeah.
Bill.
All right. Yeah. Thanks.